Hamden Township? Sirs?
This is the first you're posing this question here.
Well, we discussed it last week.
Well, I don't recall you asking us to.
It wasn't me, actually, it was Kathleen.
Yes, I did.
Is that something you would consider?
Look, in terms of personally, I mean, we each take an oath, follow the oath, follow the Constitution of the United States here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania here. And in terms of the non-discrimination statement that we put on record here this evening, look, I mean, we can go through, multiple, will you support this or support that? If I can see something in writing, I'm happy to take a look at it.
Are you suggesting that any of the four of us are unethical? Are you?
No, I'm suggesting Mr. Beanstalk is unethical.
Oh my goodness, because you're saying we wouldn't want.
Sir, I don't know anything about you.
Well,
But I know a lot about Mr. Beanstalk
okay,
now.
there's a lot of people I could tell you in this room that know us.
That's wonderful,
And you can,
I'm very
and you
thankful.
can, if you really want to know, there's, all of us have been in the community, we've been, you said power. Yeah, I have no power at all.
Well, if you don't have any power, what do we have?
Excuse me, I'm a public servant. I do what people want me to do. People say, can we have parks? Can we have bikeways? Can we have the roads? People come and they ask us to do things and we try to do them. I've never considered this a power play. I feel this is public service. This is what I do for the community. And I've been doing it for a while. And so people, you may not know me, but people do. And I firmly believe that nobody would say, John, you gotta fill out an ethics form because people don't know you. I think people know me, and I hope they do, and I certainly hope that they feel that I'm doing the best that I can to serve the public interest. And that's, I think, my fellow commissioners here are trying to do the best they, we're just neighbors, for crying out loud. They've asked for $4,000 a year
Yes.
to sit
Not
up
enough.
here to try to figure out how to do trick or treat night, and how to do roads, and how to build parks, and I mean, this is the stuff we do to give back to the community for all the community has given us.
Yes.
And I guess I'm feeling a little abused here, but maybe that's not
Well,
what you're trying to do.
let me,
May I respond?
certainly.
I am not intending for you to feel abused. I stated last week and I'll state again.
I appreciate that.
I appreciate the hard work you folks have put in. $4,000 a year is not enough for the amount of work that has to be done.
I do for nothing, to be honest with you.
Okay, he's on the record.
Trust
That's
me,
all my wife.
I'll take it.
However, we are now in a situation where sometimes what is best for the community isn't filling a pothole. When residents and people don't feel safe visiting Cumberland County and Hamden Township, that's disconcerting. When I am harassed at an event like this, it's not great.
Did somebody
Who's
harass you?
harassing you?
Not tonight, but last night. Absolutely.
Well, I certainly hope you're not being harassed. We welcome you here, we want to hear what you have to say. If you have concerns, I just think that this board is trying its best to interact with you to say, we're doing our job for the folks.
And I appreciate that.
Okay.
But what I am asking and what I am concerned about is Mr. Beanstalk's biases, which he has proudly displayed and has vaguely acknowledged and sort of apologized for, but definitely not apologized for as well. I am concerned that he may not be the best arbiter of something like Section 12 that you folks want to have passed.
Yes.
It's done.
Okay, so I am concerned that he may not be the best arbiter of getting this passed into law.
It's done.
It's done.
It's
So
done
then-
and it's passed.
It's done.
So then who's going to hold him accountable to that?
Trust me, there's 4 of us and there's 30,000 people. Now, can I respond now?
Please.
Okay. I find it interesting that you are now looking at us to sign a statement that because one person that we are associated with perpetrated an act that you don't feel is comfortable. Yet people are stepping up to the microphone saying it's not fair to profile my community, me, my religion, because members of those groups did something and it's not fair to profile me. So I just, and this is what I said last month, and you left before I could finish, and it's on the video of you walking out. I wish everyone could put politics aside and put emotion and feelings and everything aside and start showing mutual respect to people. I really do. I can tell you, signing a statement that we're not going to do something, it's worth what it is on paper. I do find it offensive that you are asking me to sign something to attest that I am a certain person and I meet these rules and I follow these rules and I believe these things because I'm a white male elected and sitting up here at this table. That is no different than what members of the audience are saying. It's no different, and you, because you are on that side of the podium and that's what you believe, that's what the new rule in the country is whatever a certain person believes, and that's what's right. But what I'm asking you is you're asking me to now come up with an additional ordinance. We made huge strides doing what we did tonight. Come up with another ordinance, yet you still don't have any faith that we're honorable people and we're not discriminatory. And so it is kind of profiling. And I know you're going to tell me you disagree, but just because we're sitting up here as elected officials and a person that was independently elected, he was not my running mate, he was independently elected by the people, because he did something which none of us were aware of until 2 weeks ago. I mean, we all knew he wrote limericks, but we didn't know what he wrote. I guess it's fair to profile me now.
Anything else?
I don't have anything else that's appropriate for right now, other than, again, I am extremely disappointed and saddened. The people in power, and you might not acknowledge that you have power, and that's okay. You don't have to acknowledge it for it to exist. The people in power are once again failing to acknowledge the people who feel discriminated against. And that's a shame. That's not how it's supposed to work. How it is supposed to work is that the people in power listen to their constituents. That's how it's supposed to work, and it doesn't have to be like this.
What have we done that indicates that we are not listening? It's
Your
easy.
entire attitude, and I'm pretty sure you can also, okay, I don't think this is productive. I'm going to end it here. I thank you for your time. I appreciate you allowing me to speak.
I appreciate you coming.
I hope
in.
we can do better.
I hope so too, Mayor. I really do.
Thank you.
Please allow me to come back a second time. I want to thank the commissioners for the resolution. And I would just like to make the point that that's one step in the right direction. And like Mr. Gaspich said, making them sign anything is meaningless. We minorities want to see that you're here for us, equal to the white folks in this community. And the ordinance that you're looking at, this resolution you've made, is a step in the right direction. We just want that same message sent out into the community, just as one of your commissioners made a comment that offended the community and scared the community and made us wonder about our place in this place, I think equally, Hampton Town commissioners should send a message out to the community that disassociate themselves from one, because this is not who we are, and we need to know who you are. 2 or 3 people might come here. I now know who you are, but my 16% don't know who you are. And I think we would like that, to be sent out, to make a statement and let us know that this is not who we are. We're here to represent and respect the 16% minority people in Hampton Township. That's all, that'll make it, that's a big step.
And I totally agree, and honestly, we're 10 days into this.
Okay.
I mean, we're only 10 days into this. We found out about it last Monday. We're 10 days into it. I honestly, pulling that resolution together and getting it through attorneys and getting it into a resolution in government, I mean, we had this conversation last Wednesday, so we're 7 days into it. That's fast for government. You
I
have
understand
my-
fast. I understand fast.
It's
I'm dealing with Cumberland Valley School District, and they've taken 18 months to look at a school
And it-
discipline policy.
and
So
all-
I appreciate it. I take my hat off.
And honestly,
Yes.
we're in the infancy, and you just have to give us time.
You acknowledge that something will be, we will understand. The community will understand how this commission, how this township feels towards the minority. They will disassociate themselves with the thoughts of one of your own and assure us. We want an assurance. We want an assurance publicly, not at the meeting where the 30, 40 people made a comment in public, 30,000 people read it. We need to see it in public that there's an assurance that we are here. The resolution tonight, nobody's going to know about that. I'm glad that I came here tonight, and I'm glad that I see that you're determined to do something. That is what action is. That is what action is. And you know, the whole, not just Hampton Township, Silvertown Township, school district, they need to see that this is what, when you say something, we mean it. That's an example of leadership. And until you put that out into the public, nobody knows what you're doing. And minorities like myself will continue to feel excluded and fearful and wonder whether people that we're paying taxes are serving us equal to the majority. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That was very well said. Anybody else? Yes, Kathleen.
I just want to remind everybody that we are all people, okay? And you said, Mr. Gaspard, we're 30,000 residents in Hampton Township. So we can set aside politics, but we can't set aside feelings, okay? Because people have feelings, and that's, you know, and you're a numbers guy. So $85,284 is our median income. So that means half of our township residents earn less than that, and half earn more than that, okay? We have about 3.6% of those people, okay, live in the poverty. So when we're making decisions, especially regarding the pool, those 3.6% of the township residents don't have the money to have a pool in their backyard, okay? Oddly enough, when we were talking about that, and she said 1973 was the year that the pool was born, that's when I moved into Hampton Township in 2nd grade. And the thing about Hampton Township, anybody could go to that pool because it was built with federal funding, okay? It couldn't be a private pool like the Camp Hill Borough pool that was built on borough funds, private funds. So Hampton Township prides itself in being inclusive, and in your resolution, you included socioeconomic status as well. So we have to remember that there are families in our community when we're going to decide on how much to charge for people to come in, that we have a rate. You, Mr. Gaspich, said last week you didn't want to pay the $10 and you're going to veto the budget because you don't want to pay the $10 per capita tax, because you veto it every year if that's included. Because you don't, and if we gave that money to CV, if it's going to go to CV, then no way, keep it here. We wouldn't want to give CV any money. And you, Mr. Thomas, said
Yes.
that sometimes, you know, people were suggesting maybe, you know, people that don't own property, that's the only tax they're paying to Hampton Township, okay? But people that rent apartments and rent property, they pay through their rent property taxes, okay? So it's not just about, I mean, it's not just about what we take from our community, you know, our residents, it's what we give back to them. And a pool that is self-funding is great, but what are we gonna do when the time when it isn't self-funding, but it is a community thing, it has a swim team? You know, my sister's name was up on that board for years because she broke a record, and she learned to swim, and she was one of those kids that had to swim in the lane to hang on to the side of the pool because she couldn't make it to the bulkhead, okay? So, I mean, this is a community entity. So many kids I know have learned to swim at the Hampton pool. So it's not just numbers, and it's not politics aside. We have to consider people and humanity.
Yes, thank you very much, that's well said. Anybody else? Okay, I just want to say I appreciate the conversation that's taking place. I really do. I know that it was hurtful for some people, and difficult perhaps to say some of the things that were said, but I really believe they came from the heart. And I think that what we did, and this is maybe something that people are used to because they watch what goes on in other places, like Harrisburg and Washington, and they say it takes so long to get something done. What John Gaspey said is true. People came in a few days ago, and they brought an issue before us that meant something to them. And they said to the board, do something about it. And we had commissioners get together to draft a resolution that said, this is what we believe. And within a week, we had it not only brought to the table, we had the darn thing passed. And that, what I told you before, somebody can get up here at that podium and stand there and say, commissioners, we think you ought to do blah, 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 whatever it is. And if it's something that we could do that very night with 3 votes, we can do it. It doesn't take a study, it doesn't take a whole, somebody came years ago, they talked about the bus that doesn't go around the township anymore. Years ago, somebody came to the township meeting and said, you know, it's really hard to get to the pool. And we said, yeah, that's probably true. Well, what if we have a bus? Well, that might be a good idea. Okay, I'll make a motion that we have a bus, seconded, passed. Next thing we knew, we had a bus running around the township picking kids up. So, in this kind of an environment, Hampton Township does and can react very, very quickly when an issue comes up. But I want to thank Maurice. I've talked to some of you people in private and in public for bringing the issues to our attention, and I want to thank my fellow commissioners for jumping on it and taking action, because I really believe they did a great job. So thank you guys. That's it, then I'm going to move on to approval of the minutes of September 26, 2019.
So moved.
Move the second, if you have a question. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Great. If I can, if you lose me, because I'm not doing this right, this microphone, let me know, and I'll try that. I will try to effectively. Okay, next is Planning Commission, Commissioner Seacott, please take.
The first item on our planning commission agenda is the preliminary final land development plan for Penn State Health Hampton Medical Center located at Wentworth Corporate Center. This plan previously came before this township. It's a 108-bed facility, I believe. The plan was approved by the township, and Penn State Health is coming back with several revisions to the plan. The planning commission recommended approval, I believe, at the August meeting with certain caveats. I believe it's tonight.
Jim Snyder, I'm Snyder Security Associates, representing Penn State Health.
Can you give us a brief overview of the plan and why you're asking for some revisions?
Certainly. You recall back in January of 19, the original land development plan for Penn State Health was approved by the board. and the project began construction. There had been some ongoing planning relative to the facility, and there a variety of site revisions were made, some tweaks in building footprint, sidewalk dimensions, things of that nature. To the point where we wanted to bring the plan back, and the township suggested we bring a revised land development plat back for processing. We see that this is very minor, administrative type of plan submission, but it is before you as a revised preliminary final plan. Does capture some of those handful of items that we're proposing to make. The Planning Commission has recommended approval, subject to staff comments. We have addressed all of the staff comments and made the resubmission, so we think the plan
And on
is.
that front, you agree with all the planning commission comments?
Yes, yes. And we, no, I'm sorry, and we think that the plan is in a position to be acted on this evening.
Nothing is minor anymore, but
Hi.
with that, can you give us a brief overview of the changes that you're asking for?
Sure, just by way of reference to the exhibit, the site plan exhibit that's on the board, one of the areas where there was some concentration was parking and access in the vicinity of the emergency room and the emergency department. That was one of the main items on the plan. One thing that did was pushed our ring road further back into the site, changed some grading, changed the alignment, layout of some storm sewers and so forth. That was probably one of the main items. One of the other items is the central utility plant became a pre-engineered structure. It changed its configuration and size a little bit, actually got a little bit smaller. So that was reflected on the plan. There were a handful of minor things where sidewalk widths and dimensions changed. You know, we flip-flopped some accessible parking spaces from one side of an aisle to another. There was some circulation at the front of the building that was revised to make drop-offs and departing from drop-offs a little bit easier. Those were the main items that were made to the plan. And then a handful of things that go with that, like landscaping and lighting. And so the plan is materially the same. It's still the same number of rooms, still the same square footage of medical office space. Parking is generally the same. One of the revisions we did make was, although it was designed into the plan, we have two areas that are optional parking, so we may or may not build them. So we've noted those on the plan as such. So I think that kind of captures most of the items.
You're asking for 3 waivers, one dealing with the preliminary plan, one dealing with stormwater volume control, and one with minimum stormwater pipe size of 18 inches. And let's go through each of those, and I want to be clear as to, you know, what the waiver is and why you're asking for each, and we'll also have a discussion here with staff as well, make absolutely clear in terms of, you know, whether we're going to grant. So preliminary plan, can you please explain why you're asking for that?
When this plan first came through, a single building on a single lot was a final plan. So a final land development plan was processed. In the interim, I think you've adopted an ordinance that changed that. So it would have required a preliminary plan and a final plan. So we asked for the waiver of the preliminary plan because the plan is minor, to be treated as a preliminary/final. So that's the waiver of the preliminary plan.
Let's, and I'll jump to staff on that front. Jeremy, can you also explain from your perspective?
So as Jim indicated previously, this would have been just a final plan. We could revise our ordinance such that a preliminary plan would be required. Typically, a plan of this complexity would require a preliminary plan. I would not be supportive of a waiver of that requirement. However, this plan is really, quite honestly, just minor revisions to an existing approved plan, and the details of the plan has been reviewed in depth several times, so staff does support the request for a waiver.
Next one, stormwater volume control.
So this is one that carried forward from the last plan. It was one that the board approved.